Good afternoon, all. I was going to say good morning there. We're just a minute past 12. Delighted today to be joined by Kev from the LFC Daytrippers. I know Kev is I think you're on the Fatback for tonight as well, Kev. Are you? So a busy day of streaming.
It's a busy day of streaming, a lot of football in between the two. So loads going on today.
Yeah, there's big games on today. Obviously, the Super Sunday is City play Newcastle, so it should be intriguing game that, but we'll see what happens in it. Kev, so into it tomorrow, United Liverpool is the first time both teams are winless going in to play each other in a fixture for the first time ever. It's a game, I suppose, it's a bit strange really, because United have had two games home Brighton away to Brentford. Conceded 6, scored 1, haven't taken anything. Obviously, they've been humiliated in both games, I would say. And for ourselves, very poor against Fulham, 2 points dropped. Some would say a point earned because we played better than lost games in the past. We were really off of that day. Much improved performance on Monday night against Palace. I thought we weren't that bad. It was definitely improved from Fulham. But again, 2 points dropped, and the result was very frustrating. The red card to Darwin Núñez, he misses the next 3 games, and he gives us now less options as well amongst the squad, because looking at the bench on Monday night, we were very lacklustre. It was a weakened bench as it possibly could be, even though I think we'd Keita on the bench. We got Firmino was out. We'd a couple of players that could come on and do something that were on the bench. Henderson was on the bench, but it was a lot less options than what we had at our strongest stage of last season. Tomorrow, Kev, Old Trafford, talk as well of protests going on there. I don't think Sky will have this game cancelled. I think I've seen something 903 million net spend United have spent in the last 10 years under the Glazers. What do you make of it all, and do you think the protest will have any impact on it? And I suppose, what's your take on tomorrow's game?
Well, tomorrow's game is a standalone. It's the one, I suppose, it's the first go-to fixture in any calendar year when the fixtures come out. That's the first one I look for, always. It doesn't matter where we are in the league, where they are in the league. This is the biggest game. Apart from probably the El Clasico, it's the biggest game in world football. And for me, it's the most important game in world football. It's vital that we get 3 points tomorrow night. And it's the one game, I suppose, for them, it's the game that they probably want after on the back of the 2 performances they've had. And for us, it's a huge banana skin because of the 2 performances they've had. If you get me, it's like...
Well, Jurgen Klopp said he'd rather United win 4 or 5 than lose 4 or 5 coming in to play us,
I get where he's coming from. It's only pitfalls for us. We're expected to go and win, and we need to win desperately. We can't afford to be slipping further points behind Man City, even this early in the season. Draws are like losses, as Shawnee Lawson would say. And it's at this stage of the season now, you can't be like 7-8 points behind them. It's just not happening. And what you said about Manchester United being the fact that Manchester United are having a horrific start to the season. If they win, they go above us. You know what I mean? I mean, what does that say about us? I agree with you. The Fulham was a disaster. There were signs of improvement against Palace, but for all of the chances that we created, we couldn't score. And it took a worldie. It took an absolute worldie of a goal to get a point. You can't depend on that. So how we set up tomorrow night and how the work that the lads have been doing on the training pitch all week to open space and to work on finishing, they have to have been doing something. We need to see something more. And as for the protests and stuff, will it work? No. The Glazers, Manchester United to the Glazers are their endless, bottomless pit credit card. Whatever they want to go and invest in their business life, they'll just walk into any investment institution and say, yeah, we own Manchester United. Yeah, how much do you want? They're not selling Manchester United for love nor money. It was bought on credit. That principal debt is still there. And the fans can kick and moan and bitch and cry all they like. They weren't bitching and moaning and crying for every manager that was appointed. And they weren't bitching and moaning and crying when they were signing all these players. It wasn't until hindsight kicked in and they'd realised that they were shite that they started coming on social media crying about it. you know. But they are where they are now, and we are where we are now. And the only thing that matters to me tomorrow night is 3 points, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, Kev. I do. Let us in there now from Klopptalk TV. We'll just added them in there. He was just running a minute too late. I'll let you have a say now. I'll let you. I agree, Kev. Yeah, like it was was it not last season, the season before, towards the end of it, behind closed doors was a protest. United fans gone on the pitches when they were really struggling under Ole. He was very lucky at the time to keep his job. Then the game does go ahead. I think we went through 2 weeks then without a game, and we beat them 4-2 very convincingly. It was the start of our, I think, a 5-winning game streak at the end of the season, and we ended up clinching third, got Champions League football. Now, again, another disaster. They brought in a manager. He has money to spend. We've seen Casemiro's over the line. He's already spent money in this window. He's put all, it looks like, his eggs in the one basket for De Jong. That's not going to happen. The wages he's on, he must be on $500,000 a week, is he? And then they're signing players and linked with players, and Rabbi was another one to come in that you're kind of saying, they're not even similar. They're completely different players. So now they've got Casemiro. Yeah, he's a winner, very experienced. He's great. But is it just somewhere for him to go now because of the money? He's done what he can at Madrid. And, I mean, he's completely different to De Jong, a different type of player. So where is it going for United? But in relation to the net spent, he said 903 million the last 10 years, phenomenal amount. They've been backed massively with recruiting managers. They've been backed massively with recruiting players. So I don't see what the big issue is. Yeah, I know there's debt and there's other stuff, and they don't have the training facilities, and they fell behind on all that and upgrading the stadium. But then United will also say, on the other hand, that they're not worried about all that, that it's about performances and what happens on the pitch. So they're being looked after in that. It's just that the recruitment has been terrible of managers and of players, and then the attitude, the discipline of players and how they've been handled and what they've been allowed to do is all been a different conversation. But I suppose it falls under the one thing that they've been just badly managed through everything, Aled, what's your thoughts for tomorrow, buddy? And you're reporting from Spain, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you hear me, lads? Is everything all right?
Yeah, spot on, buddy.
Yeah, all good. But big up to Daz TV first and foremost. And big up to everybody involved with this. Yeah, exactly. Liverpool United, it's always a big game. But I think we need to improve off the last 2 games. Been absolutely below par. And just very passive, one-dimensional. And I think if we want to beat Manchester United, obviously that midfield has to be beat. But, we have to give credit for, what we did last season. And I do believe there is a little bit of a hangover. And I think you can kind of draw a little bit of a conclusion to why we've started so sloppy. But I expect the rhythm to come in time. Against Man United, obviously, it's a big fixture. Form goes out the window. But again, is there really any advantage when both teams have not really been brilliant at the start of the season? Look, I'd like to think Liverpool win this game quite comfortably. But I think when you try and compare the 2 games that we played against United last season, the first game, we were absolutely phenomenal. We had our rhythm, cohesion. We had time to settle throughout the season. We got that 5-0 win, and we exploited a very bad Manchester United team. The same quality of Manchester United team we faced in the last 10 games of the season. And if I'm being brutally honest, that performance against United, we played our best football over the last 10 games. Every other game looked really sloppy or below par. We just looked a little bit too passive and just one-dimensional in that as well. So obviously we have to beat this Manchester United team again. I have full confidence that we'll beat that midfield. And if we beat that midfield, we'll win the game. Casemiro, very good signing. But you said it as well, Daz. These are players that they're linked with are completely different footballers. One is very physical and likes to play off the shoulder, and another one likes to play as a ball playing centre mid. So it's quite mental. It smacks a lot of panic to me, if I'm being brutally honest. And I think they're just looking to recruit players based off what they've achieved in the game, not on what can make Manchester United a better force. And look, I think for the amount of money they're investing into the likes of Casemiro, I think will that be reciprocated? If I'm being honest, no, it won't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. And that's why I brought up the point about them going after different targets. But what United need is obviously better harmony, never give up. They need that attitude, that discipline that Liverpool have and have got us through so much success. So I think that wins over technique and talent as much as anything. But United, it's been a disaster. It's the worst United team of my generation. But as Klopp said, he would have rather see them win 4 or 5 than lose 4 or 5 coming into this. So all the pressure's on them. And look, they could turn up tomorrow. We could see a different United. Now, look, we probably will. But I think if we play our game, we remain positive. And like, what I will say is like the last 2 games, as good as we weren't, particularly Fulham, we didn't lose. And we're a very, very hard team to beat. You look at last season, how many games did we lose out of 63 games in total? Was it 2? Might have been 2 defeats in all competitions. So I know the draws kill you, and I know you were saying, Kev, that Shawnee says all the time that the draws are as bad as defeats, and they are. But I suppose in general, in this game, you don't want to lose it because of bragging rights. That's the most important thing. And I suppose you get the emotion going into this game you don't get in any other game. Like against City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, Everton, you're apprehensive going in. This game, you're always very at edge. You're always very nervy, and you get that feeling going into it that you don't get in any other game, because this for me is the biggest game. This is the first game you look at in the calendar when the fixtures are released. It's Liverpool United, it's the biggest rivalry, and it is up there with El Clasico being watched all over the world. Around me, as all I know is majority of people are United fans, are Liverpool. It's probably the same with you lads as well. So the rivalry is very tense there, and I think it's the biggest in the Premier League. I'm just going to read out a comment here. Rory Fitzgerald threw in. Good afternoon, gents. Good to have you on. Looking forward to your thoughts on the game tomorrow and the midfield selection thoughts. Kev, midfield selection thoughts for tomorrow. What do you think? We know we'll go with 3. We're limited to who we can pick. We had 10 first-team players out injured going into the Palace game. Very, very poor to start off in the second game of the season. So I suppose, is there really much of a selection because we don't have many options?
This is okay. I'll give you 2 answers, okay? Because it's what I think will happen and what I want to see happen. I'll go with the latter first. I think what I want to see happen is a 2 in midfield. I want to see a Henderson and Fabinho pair in midfield, and I'd love to see us play 4-4-2. I would love to see us play a 4-4-2 there, more than anywhere else. But more than that, I would love to see Fabinho and Henderson as your centre mids, Harvey Elliott on one side, Naby, or more than likely Carvalho on the other side, with Diaz and Salah up front. And it's the only thing the reason I say that is because I look at when we went down to 10 and we went to the 2-man midfield, we were so much better. We were so much better with the ball and with the pace of the ball that I think it can work. I think what will happen is the biggest decision for me is what do you do with Mo Salah? Do you play Mo Salah wide on the right? If that's the case, then Bobby starts. If you play Salah through the middle, Harvey can play wide right, and you can play Henderson, Fabinho, and Naby Keita as your midfield 3. Yeah, they're the decisions to make. I like the idea of that actually, because I just don't. I think that Bobby's drop, as much as I love him, his drop off has been ridiculous. I can't. You're going back a long way now to find a game where he's had a good game, where he's had an impactful game. Playing against United it's one of those games that it could help him, dropping off and linking the play up. But I honestly think the way Man United will set up, I think they'll be pragmatic in this game. I think he will go with a back 5. And
I agree. I think so.
I think he'll do everything humanly possible to stay in the game for 70 minutes and then look to change it then. But we haven't got many options, but the options that we do have can change the way we normally set up. And I think it wouldn't be the worst idea. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to change how we're doing. If anything, it'll probably create more space and more chances, because holding the ball and retaining the ball and keeping possession and keeping sides pressed in, like we did against Palace, we're good at that. We're still good at that. It's the other side of it. It's finishing chances. That's all. That's what the problem was against Palace.
24 shots on goal, Kev, 4 on target on Monday night.
It's not good enough.
It shows the creativity's there. The chances are there. A lot of huff and puff in the game, but nothing too clinical. I know Darwin Núñez hits the post, but I think that changes the whole game. It changed the mindset. As soon as Darwin Núñez comes off, it was real right, let's just go over here. I think game plan goes out the window. There was probably a half an hour, 20 to go, and it was just, let's just get out of here with 3 points. And they did try, and for me, it was an improved performance. But like 4 on target, it's not good enough, and we hadn't got too many chances either against Fulham. We got to be more ruthless and cutthroat in front of goal, and not having Jota, not having Darwin Núñez, Mane is gone now. It does leave less options, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the other side of it is we've got into this nasty habit of conceding first.
Yeah.
That has to stop, because you could. A few years ago, United actually used to do this. United went through a thing before they went off into a cliff. They started winning games from losing positions, and we all looked at, oh yeah, they're never out of the game. It's this and that's great, and they're fantastic. They'll go for 95 minutes. No, this is not a good thing to be good at. Getting points from losing positions is not a stat you want to have in your forethought of your mind. I want to be front runners. I want to be able to get into a game in the first 20 minutes, attack the shit out of it, get a goal lead, get a 2-goal lead, break their hearts, and then rest for course for 70 minutes. You watch Man City. That's how they keep so many players so fit. Is they'll batter sides for 20 minutes, get a goal up, and then they'll rest on the ball. And we're good at that. We're good at keeping possession, but we need to get a lead.
Yeah, I agree, because you're going to be found out, and especially against the better teams, you're not going to keep conceding first and then come back and never mind get something but win games. You know what I mean? Aled, there's another comment thrown in here, Rory Fitzgerald. If Ten Hag doesn't change shape, then he has to pick 3 centre midfielders from 2 very different styles, ball playing, Eriksen or Fernandes, versus ground covering and Fred and McTominay, who are obviously more physical and do more of the groundwork. Team announcing that 7 will say a lot tomorrow. Absolutely, and I don't want to get too much into the United midfield, but what do you think the midfield of Liverpool will be tomorrow and of United? And do you think we go 4-4-2 or stick with the tried and trusted 4-3-3?
It's very interesting actually whether or not he reverts to a different formation for a game of this magnitude. I think Jurgen Klopp is a very stubborn manager in the way he picks his team. I think if he likes a method, he will back that method. And even if it isn't working, he will trust in the process that eventually it will come to pass. But we haven't taken enough chances. And I can probably go back to probably even Christmas last year, really, where there were games that gone by and we'd have 12 shots in the first half and maybe 1 or 2 or maybe even 0 on target, and that has got to change, because there's so much for just keeping the ball and just having domination over the opponent. But if you're not cohesive with the transition from midfield into attack and that goal scoring output, you get punished by bigger teams, as you've said, Daz. So look, in terms of the midfield, I would like to see. Dare I said it, a lot of people are slandering Henderson, but he had a very good performance against Palace for when he was on the field. So I'm going to go for Henderson in 6, Naby Keita on the left. I think that press and that energy has got to be utilised in order to suffocate that midfield for Manchester United. And then what I would have is Harvey Elliott. That creativity, he's proved time and time again that whenever he's thrown in the mixer, he can do a job. We've seen him utilised a lot last season at the start of the season, so I wouldn't mind betting he comes into this midfield again. Obviously, shouts whether or not to bring Fabinho in, but I think Klopp will go. I think he'll start Fabinho, but what I want to see is him start Henderson, just purely based on the fact Fabinho, I thought his balance was a little bit off in terms of change of direction against Palace. I think, he got caught a few times when they were on their counter-attack, and I think that was a big problem in, Eberechi Eze getting the ball straight through to Zaha and then picking apart the centre-back partnership of Van Dijk and Phillips. So in order to match and eclipse Manchester United's midfield, all we need to do is just get more chances away, because the more we inject energy into our performance, the more it sends them into panic, and then they start. That was the story last season. We just started on the front foot, first 20 minutes, battered Manchester United, and we got a few quick goals. And Manchester United went into it a whole lot of panic, and that's the worst thing you can do in a league like the Premier League, especially of a fixture of that nature. So for me, suffocate the midfield, inject it with energy, and that's why I think Keita and Harvey Elliott could be the difference in terms of picking out those balls. But we need our front three or maybe even front two, if we play 4-4-2, to fire on all cylinders, because it'll be imperative. Because if we don't, there's always that lingering thought at the back of your mind, a fixture of that magnitude, you can have players who can punish you at the other end of the field. So it's imperative that midfield's on point.
We're also going for a record tomorrow. First time to get 3 wins out of 3 at Old Trafford in the league. The last couple of visits there have obviously been good to us, particularly as when we played them at home. And you're right, Aled, we need to get goals tomorrow, and we need to get them as soon as we're given chances. Last season we were very good at that, and we brought United into panic mode, and it was scattergun, and they were just all over the place. You could see the reaction of players, Ronaldo, Maguire. They were all over the place last season, and you didn't have to even look at the game on the sky. You just knew by the look of their faces and images of what they were presenting that how bad it was going for them. You know what I mean? And we need something similar. Look, I think overall we're a very good side. Definitely, no doubt about it, one of the best, and I think we're much better than United. Ruddsy throws in there, as bad as we have been, they have been way worse, and that's true. And we have to remember that. They've had a terrible end of last season, but the new manager's come in. I do think he's going to need time, there's no doubt about it, but he must be coming in now thinking, what have I come into as well at the same time? Because last week I watched them against Brentford. I watched the game, second half against Brighton, and the first half only against Brentford, the best half when all the goals come in, and they were absolutely awful. They were not like a team. They went backwards. It was like Fergie just left. It was like time even before Moyes. Like he just gone, and the team were just gone way back. But when you look at it now, they're worse now than what they were the day David Moyes was appointed. They've no European, they've no Champions League football. They don't look close to it. They're all over the place. And that bottom, I think they're still bottom of the league, aren't they? And the only thing that they show for it. Yeah, the only thing that they show for it is they scored 1 goal. And we're much better than what we're playing. But I do think the midfield three tomorrow, Fabinho has been way off. I think Fabinho has to be better. There has to be questions asked of him as well. He looks to me like he's probably a bit overdone it. He just looks like I don't know whether it's burnt out or whatever, but I mean, we've now had a week without a game, so it was good time for players to recover and prep for this game as well. Mentally and physically as well. Do you know what I mean? Because physically last week against Palace, some of the players didn't look great. But you're right, when Henderson came on last week, and I thought Gomez as well, they brought great composure and energy to us. And I mean by composure was everything was just a bit calmer, it was a bit slower. Because before that, it looked like every pass was overthought about. We were rushing, we were panicking everything. Henderson come on that midfield, and it was just that bit more unity there. It's a bit more, he made us tick a bit more. And I do think him as a captain of the club has to start in a game like this, because who else do you put in there? Do you go with Keita and Elliott and then Fabinho behind him if you go to 3? I don't think so. I think tomorrow for me, you're probably going to see Fabinho, Henderson and Elliott. And now that Elliott's back to full fitness, the fact that he started, did he start against Fulham? I think he might have, did he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
He did, yeah, and he started last week. Tells me that, normally when Klopp has him starting games, right, he's back now and he's going to stick by him. And I thought he was good against Palace. It was a positive performance, but he's still learning the trade. He's still quite young. But tomorrow, you're right, lads. You just got to take our chances. We got to be ruthless against these, and go there with no sympathy, which we're not going to. What I was going to ask is then, I've just brought it up there about United. So, do you think midfield? While we were on it there, I think Roddy Fitzgerald put in a comment. Do you think we'll go in for a midfielder now? There's less than 2 weeks left in the window. The middle of next week, I think it's over. Do you think we want to go with you, Kev?
The Caicedo talk is interesting, because when we were chatting before we came on air, a lot of the talk on Caicedo is coming out of Ecuador. Now, look, it could be spoofing. We don't know. He's only been at Brighton 5 minutes. And the thing is, I think to see the year at Brighton, a year in the Premier League at 20 years of age, playing week in, week out, will probably do him better and us in the long term better than if we get him now and he just becomes one of many when everyone is back fit. Because most of our injuries, in midfield especially, aren't long injuries. They're all short injuries. They all should be back in a few weeks, bar Chamberlain. And look, the Ox one, I'm convinced if that injury didn't happen to him, he would have been sold. So that's just put a kibosh on everything, because no matter which way you dress it up, we have 24 in the squad already. Someone will have to go to make room if we bring anyone in, or someone isn't getting registered and we're paying, i.e. Oxlade-Chamberlain a wage until his contract runs out or we terminate his contract. And the club just isn't run that way. And it sets a bad precedent in the dressing room anyway, because it's the one thing I think within the dressing room, the harmony of the club, the togetherness of the club, that could be shattered by one or two really bad decisions and one or two really bad panics. And we don't tend to do that anymore. I take a lot from what sometimes Klopp lies a lot in press conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't think he's lying when he turned around and said, if there was someone good enough and available, we would have got him early. That's good management. And that's how we've been doing business recently, is we'll go in for who we wait for who we want. We'll get him, but we'll get him early. You know, Diaz was the exception because Spurs pushed our hand. But in hindsight, it was a great move to get him in January. It really pepped up the squad for the second half of the season. But
it was needed.
I think if Klopp had a target in mind, i.e. a Barella or one of these players, if any of those players are available, I guarantee you Liverpool isn't the only person looking. And those moves would have happened already. You know, I unless something disastrous happens in the next couple of weeks, I think we're done.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to read out a comment there. Ruth, you won a new LFC kit yesterday. Has Darwin on the back and his number. Great present for my kid. Hopefully the lad can sort his temper out. Yes, look, it was, and Klopp said it in the press conference on Friday. When someone does something wrong and you tell them, they're like, I know, I shouldn't have done it. I've done it wrong. It was just a moment of madness, temper. It was heat. 1 second to think about it, 1 second to react. It was just, look, if you do that in the Premier League, you do it at this level, you do it with VAR around, it can't happen. It is stupid and it's silly. He's come out, he's apologised himself on Twitter and Instagram and that he's posted up. So he knows he's done wrong, and maybe that was a bit of South American coming out of him, I don't know. But he's still young, and sometimes we forget that these players, he's only turned 23, how young they are, and they're still learning it every way, a new culture, a new language, new system, playing at an elite club in Liverpool. You know, it would have been a lot different where he was the main man and relied upon at Benfica. And there's a bit less pressure now on him since he's come into Liverpool because he needs time to set. But it is what it is, you know, and he throws in there. In fairness, I've done similar. Yeah, we all have, you know, and we learn. But yeah, midfield, Kev, it's look, we've 8 midfielders. We've Oxlade-Chamberlain there on big wages who we can't get rid of because obviously he's injured. And I do think he would have went if he'd have been fit. You know, at the stage I'm at now, it's just let Ox go and let Keita go. But it's not that simple. And why I say Keita is, as much as I love Naby Keita, which I do, what for? Isn't it? It's a 5 years down the line now, and you don't know what you're going to get out of Keita. I can't remember Keita being available for 10, 11 games consistently for where he's been able to get in the squad. How many times has the team sheet come out 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon or whatever, and an hour before kick-off any other day, and he pulls out because he's injured in a warm-up or an illness before or something. Naby Keita has been a huge letdown with availability. And what this Liverpool team, when Gini Wijnaldum was here, the likes of really good players like him, their availability was excellent. And that's what we need. And Naby has let us down so many times with his availability. Now, we've seen glimpses and very small glimpses of the world-class player that he's made out to be. But we haven't seen enough of it. We haven't seen enough of it consistently because either hasn't played a full game or he's only come on late in the game, or he's played 2-3 games and then he's not available for the next 2, 3, 4 games. And then someone else comes in, back to fitness, takes his place. Being very, very frustrating as a fan's point of view for Naby. So I don't imagine how he'd feel. His contract is up next year. So what do you do this year? Rumours come out the other day. I know Neil Jones and that took away to say, look, don't take that from it. And Klopp did as well. Everything was fine. But I think he might want to go, Naby, because it just hasn't worked out for him at Liverpool. The other day he was on the bench. He didn't come on, did he not, either against Palace? So it's frustrating for him. And same with Ox. Like, Ox was never the same player since the Roma injury. Before that, he was great. Got us the goals, the cracking goal against City in the quarterfinals of Champions League. He then come back a year later against Huddersfield. Again, we win 6-0. And actually, Naby Keita scored, I think, the quickest Premier League goal in that game after a few seconds. But they've just, both of them, particularly Oxlade-Chamberlain, it's never quite worked out. And they're taking up spaces there in the team. But then you could go out and sign another player or 2 players or whatever, Kevin. It doesn't mean you're going to have the availability for the rest of the season. So what I'm kind of getting to is there's no guarantees with whoever you sign. Like, people are talking about sign this, sign that. but do they fit the system? Are they the right player? Are the wages going to be fair in terms of who you bring in, and you're not upsetting the harmony? If you bring them in and then Thiago's only out for a couple of weeks, how's he going to feel? Do you know what I mean? So I get where the club and the recruitment are coming from, but from a fan's point of view, I can understand other fans as well that are getting very frustrated about the midfield situation, because I know, and you know, and I'm sure Aled knows that Curtis Jones' availability is really poor. Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain. So you're nearly saying 3 of those, you might only get 10, 15 games out between the 3 of them a season. Then you have Fabinho, Henderson, who do get their fair share of injuries, but are available a lot more than those. Thiago's another one who gets a lot of injuries. But you know what you get out of Thiago, and you know when he plays exactly what you're going to get. And he's been here a lot less than Thiago and than Ox and Naby Keita. We're just very unfortunate when it comes to midfield and with the position that we're in. But I don't think the club signed anybody now. I thought we might have, but I think now it might be we'd be fleeced. It'd be a panic move, and yeah, I just don't see it happening unless something was to change now with Naby again. What do you think, Aled, with the whole midfield situation and with Naby Keita just coming out recently saying he was unhappy, which I think he might be?
Yeah, of course, it's not what you want to see, especially throughout the start of the season. And it's like, well, if you had an issue, and he's probably expressed an issue if he does have one, and the truth is legit behind it. The report is legit, rather. But to be honest with you, has Naby Keita done enough to reciprocate what a lot of Liverpool fans expected him to do when he come in through the door? No, he hasn't. Last year was an exception in terms of his availability, but that was 3 or 4 years in the making, and you don't get many opportunities at a club like Liverpool. So to see Naby Keita, unhappy, does make me a little bit annoyed. But I think out of the whole squad, you'd have a very few players. Probably one of all of those you mentioned there, in the likes of Ox, Naby, Jones. They're probably the most divisive players in the squad in terms of people don't know whether they'll have a good game or they don't know whether they'll have a bad game, and that's just the type of things you get with them. And then to supplement the availability they have, it doesn't make for good viewing when if you're at the top of the club looking to invest money into the next recruit, just in case that one don't quite work. So, look, I think the more days that go on throughout the window, Liverpool, why I know they're calculated in their approach and they'll go for the right man at the right time, but it just seems like as each day is going, they're backing onto the trust in the process and getting that player next summer, which will be needed. When you look at the midfield situation that we already have, our best midfield, in my opinion, is still Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago. Fabinho at the moment's probably in his prime. Henderson's on the other side of the cliff in terms of his age and that availability. He'll probably get his game time maybe phased more into playing in that 6 role. And then you have the likes of Thiago, who we know is a world-class footballer, but we cannot lie our hat on him every single week. So obviously decisions will be made, and I expect that to be made very soon. But Liverpool know what they're doing, and I wouldn't expect Liverpool to make an ambitious move in the market if it meant jeopardising the harmony or jeopardising any rhythm that could come from lack of rhythm that could come from making a signing. So for me, I wouldn't sign a midfielder now, 3 weeks into the season. I would trust the process, stick with what we've got. And I think as well, it also stems from the fact, it's a psychological thing. Last year, people were saying, look, we may need a new midfielder. What happened? We didn't get a new midfielder, but people accepted that, we weren't going to get a midfielder. Then as soon as we signed Nunes, Carvalho, Ramsey, is this all right? So John Henry has a wallet now. So let's hope that he gets a new player. So do you know what I mean? So trust the process. Look at what happened last season. Let's just hope that if we knuckle down and take it day by day, get players back and get it all working again, by October we'll be like no team. So yeah. I'm trusting the process, and I'm sure
in a couple of weeks we've availability back, hopefully, and we've better options. My concern is that we're leaving a lot to next season, where we're probably going to have to bring in 2, could even be 3 midfielders, because obviously we know contracts are up and what have you. But we could be chasing someone big, and obviously we know the big name is Jude Bellingham, who we've been heavily linked with. Another one, Matheus Nunes, who will apparently linked, but I don't think we were, because I think if we wanted him, we would have got him 40-odd million. He would have come into Liverpool Champions League football. How good is he, though? I don't know a lot about him. I know what I've heard.
I watched him yesterday. It was all right.
Yeah, is he any better than what we have though when we've availability? I suppose
No.
But it goes back to what's the availability, and we need it. And we've been fortunate enough that up the top end of the field we've had good availability, where the lads have always been when we had the trio of Salah, Bobby, and Mane, for so long. And now it seems to be good as well. But we've obviously with Jota and Darwin Núñez suspended, that gives us less options, unfortunately, up there. Anything else, lad, just wanted to touch on before we go into the predictions for tomorrow, or anything else, Kev?
No. Look, I think Aled was dead right. You got to trust the process. They know what they're doing. The recruitment team, in the main, have got it mostly right. And a lot of the blame... The one thing I will say, in the year that we waited for Naby Keita, we bigged him up to be the next coming. We as fans, we bigged him up to be the second coming of fucking Pirlo. This guy is going to change the world. He's going to reinvent football. That's our fault. And you look at the player that was at Leipzig. He was playing in a 2. He was the attacking midfielder in a 2. Break the lines, get into the box, take shots, take people on. He was asked to do a different role at Liverpool, and it's physically more demanding. You're playing more games, and it just hasn't quite hit the mark. He's been good. He's been a solid pro, but there were times where he was available last season and he wasn't used. So to me, I think Klopp trusts Henderson more. He trusts Fabinho more. He trusts Thiago. And Naby is the first sub. And I suppose if you have a midfield going, at the start of next season, and Naby's your 4th or 5th choice, I'm okay with that. That means there's 4 other players for 3 slots who are better than him. I'm quite comfortable with that because he's a good player. He's just not what fans built him up to be.
Yeah, and his availability. I mean, it's like any player, Kev, I suppose, in any position. Like for me, I think Curtis Jones is a fabulous player. But for Curtis Jones, a young player still learning the game, he needs to play consistently. And the fact that he doesn't, it's very hard for him to keep that fluidity, that rhythm that we love to see consistent, because he doesn't play, and because he's either injured or because there's better players in ahead of him. So Naby Keita, Harvey Elliott, Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago, all going ahead of him when they're available, and particularly when every game's a must-win game for us, which it is. It's just unfortunate for the likes of Curtis Jones with his injuries, and at a time he's trying to get into a Liverpool team as a local lad, that there's so many options and are so good.
I know. One thing I just want to, Alan, can you turn that camera around, because where you are in Spain at the minute, I just want to feel a bit sick. Yeah. What's it like there today? Oh my days!
Fantastic, yeah.
Boiling.
Days.
What's the 30 degrees, Aled, is it?
Yeah, around about that. 33.
I feel sick now.
Where the play is? Mallorca, is it?
Menorca, so it's right next to Mallorca, just another island there. But we've got a few. It's actually an Irish sports bar down the way, so I might drop in and send you both a picture.
Yeah, send it on, absolutely, yeah. Taggers in it,
cracking,
absolutely. Still, bro, taggers in it, we'll get it going. Look, we've started off very slow. The last 6 Premier League games, you can see the force, and we got into a habit of that. Against Palace, I didn't think we started off slow, but we were sucker punched by a goal that was given away from our own fault, and then we just reacted to it in a way that we don't normally. We weren't calm, hadn't got that composure, and then they got into half-time 1-up. Then we obviously come out, unbelievable goal from Luis Diaz, world class, and then Darwin comes off, and there's a little bit of, we're a bit all over the place still, a bit of panic, overthinking of everything. Henderson, Gomez, come on, give us that bit more, as I said, composure, energy, to just give us that bit more in the game. So tomorrow, I suppose, it's don't start slow. Come out at these, come out of blocks. These are in an absolute rut. They're in a state, in a mess. They're all over the place. They don't know the best team. They don't know who to look up to. The one player they are seemingly supposed to look up to, Ronaldo, doesn't want to be there. He's all over the place. It's just a mess there at the moment, and that can go one or two ways. It can either be worse or be better for them coming into a game of this calibre. But I just think we go at them tomorrow, be professional, do our own game, get the lineup spot on as much as we can, and just go out and be ourselves. If we do, Kev, Aled, I think tomorrow it's there for the taking. But I don't expect another 4-5-0 or anything like that. I expect to be a lot tighter contest tomorrow. And I think you're right, Kev. Ten Hag will set up, be much more pragmatic in this game, because I think he'll have to be. They're not going to open the floodgates for us to come in at. There's talk of them even dropping Maguire and Aldo. I don't know how true that is. So yeah, that's what I feel we need to do tomorrow, and yeah, get at them, and hopefully Salah gets more goals against them. It took him a while, and now he's back at it, getting goals against United. He got a hat-trick there last season. Do we want to do...
The one thing I'd say, if they drop Maguire, they don't have centre-backs to play back five then.
That's another thing, no.
They only have three, Yeah. So you could, I think, the one thing I don't expect to happen tomorrow, I don't expect them to play out from the back. I expect them to go direct from goal kicks, try to turn us around. The one thing you don't want to do is go behind at Old Trafford and give that crowd an excuse to get up. I'm hoping for 3-0. And Darren, I honestly believe we could run out 4-5-6. If we're on it, if we're anywhere near on it at all, and players have a point to prove as well. Fabinho has a point to prove.
All of them. I think all of them do.
All of us do.
Even Van Dijk, Kev. They're the 2 games I've seen Van Dijk back-to-back play is worst ever. That's going to hurt them, and it will. And mostly under Klopp players, they bounce back, but they always come back with a response. And there's no better place, which has been a bit of a playground for us in the last 2 seasons, to go there and respond. And I think because every player, it's not just 1 or 2, have to prove. Even Robertson, Trent, and we think Gomez will come in, start tomorrow. And the good thing is he looked good and Henderson looked good coming on last week. That's why I think they'll start. Let's just go at them. If we go at them, it could be an onslaught. But I'm trying to be a bit more lucrative.
You're trying to hedge your bets. That's all it is.
Yeah. Can I get worse for them? Really, it possibly can. But I think they'll have a reaction as well. The fact they're at home, they'll have to, with the fans behind their back. I'll be more than surprised if they don't. But then we know how good Liverpool are. We know we're the absolute elite, and on our day we could destroy these tomorrow. And hopefully we do. It really like the early kickoff on the Saturday and the Monday night football. The 2 late kickoffs we all hate, and we've had 3 of them in the first 3 games. So maybe it's summed up a season so far with those.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I say is I personally don't know a Man City fan living around here, so I'm grand like that. I know plenty of United fans, and if this goes sideways any way, shape or form, I'm phoning in sick for the week. I can't be dealing with that.
No,
it's just no chance.
That's why I don't think I will. I can't be myself. But Aled, what's your thoughts tomorrow? Backing us to win, but what do you think will happen?
Well, yeah, exactly. I quite echo what both of you say. To be honest, I think if Liverpool starting them, it starts, like they did against Palace. The game just calls out a draw to me, but I can't see a world in which Liverpool lose this game. But I think if we're on it, as Kev's perfectly said, if we're on it and the forward line's firing, the midfield's firing, and like you say, we've got a point to prove. Every single player, apart from maybe 1 or 2 for last week's performance, they will have a massive point to prove because for their standards it was below par. Look, if Liverpool get the front foot, like I said, 20 minutes. What I'd love to see, the dream situation, they start strong, 20 minutes, start the right team, start the right dynamic. This could be a 4-5-0 again. But head over heart, I do think it will be a closer affair, and I do think it will probably be a 2-1, 3-1 Liverpool win.
Yeah, possibly. I think it will be a bit tighter. Starting 11, what do we think? Do we think, Kev, I think you might go to 4-4-2. I don't want to go with Phillips and Milner starting this game.
No, look, I mean, I think what Klopp will do is he'll play Alisson and goal. He'll play Trent, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson. He'll play Fabinho on the 6. I don't like Henderson on the left 8, but I think he plays there. And Elliott plays on the right side 8. Bobby will play through the middle. He'll probably play Diaz on the left and Salah on the right. I can't see him steering too far away from that.
Yeah. Well, I'd go with the same lineup as that, the 4-3-3. I do think so. I think Fabinho, Henderson, Elliott, and then Salah, Bobby, Diaz. I don't think Milner comes back in on that, Phillips. I don't want to see that, not this day and age. Like, Milner, as good as he is, and I love him, he's the player you bring on to see out a game. Or, I just think there's too much expectation. And, I mean, Look, with injuries, obviously we've been forced to. But Aled, your lineup for tomorrow probably similar, is it? Or have you any surprises?
Yeah, very similar, mate. To be honest, it wouldn't really go far wrong. I think, Milner's not a player which you'd expect him to play on the front foot. Exactly. Liverpool have got to play on the front foot, and starting James Milner just goes against that principle of, starting on the front foot. So, I wouldn't start Milner. Midfield's obviously a bit of a debate, but I think there's still enough options there. I mean, I'd go Ali, Robbo, Joe Gomez, Verge, Trent, and then I'd have probably, I think what will start is Fabinho, Henderson, and Elliott, and then in terms of the midfield, the front three, if Bobby's back, then it's Bobby, Salah, and Diaz. That's my team. I think that's the strongest team we can go with what we've got, which I is a team that can absolutely rip this United team to shreds. So.
I just wanted to be more clinical. January to April, we'd scored a lot more goals. We'd less chances created. Since May, I see into August, we'd more chances created, but a lot less clinical, less on target. Shooting accuracy was a lot less, and it just shows we need to be taking our chances, and particularly going to Old Trafford. Doesn't matter who you play. Look, we're playing United, they're a Premier League side, as bad as they've been in that moment of the league, which we cannot laugh and have to crack about. But you're playing at this professional level. You have to be taking chances, and you know that, Kev. From young age, you play football, you're told, just take your chances. If you don't, they come back on you, and we need to start fast tomorrow. But we got to be professional as well, and we're going to have to be a bit pragmatic. Well, defensively, we're going to have to be very composed, I think, and very. We're going to have to be calm there. Bring that calm from Van Dijk, reassurance back. We're going to be solid there, because we can't be giving away anything stupid either there at that end of the field. But that high line, and I was cutters out before, but it's when we lose ball in attack and players are not chasing or give away silly stuff. That's when it can become a problem. So let's hope tomorrow that changes. We do get a fast start and we just win. The most important thing is to win. I don't care tomorrow we don't play that well, but we win. We just need points in the board, and that's the main thing. Because I thought we played well enough Monday night, but we got a point, and it was shoved back as well. You drop points, and it's been a bad start. So just win. That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
Lads, score predictions.
I got 3-0. Diaz and Salah brace.
Diaz, Salah brace, love that. Yeah, Aled.
3-0, Salah hat-trick.
Nice.
The
fantasy football special.
Right,
hey, mate, I've captained him. He's got to do a madness, boys.
Yeah,
he's got to do a madness.
We'll go for a hat-trick, even though I think it'll be a bit tighter, but I'll go for 3-0 as well. We'll stick with the boys, a hat-trick. Who will I go for? Firmino, Salah and Diaz, one each in the front three. That's if they start, But will Matip start if he's available? Do you think? Doubtful? No. I don't think so.
No.
Lads, pleasure getting you on. Anything else? Or I know you're on this evening, Kev. You'll be on with the lads with Gavin, Keith, probably Shawnee and that.
We're on at 10 o'clock on LFC Daytrippers, usual suspects. So I look forward to seeing people in the chat.
So pleasure meeting you, Kev, and thanks as always, Daz, for inviting me on, mate. And here's
anytime, thanks for coming on and sharing the wonderful views with us and showing us a bit of Spain. We could do with that bit of cheering up after 2 points dropped. Brilliant.
We're sick now. That's enough. Stop that. It could be worse. You could be sat at a table with a few glasses in front of you. That would really rub it in. Your head. That's where he's headed now. That's where he's headed now.
That's where he's going. The Irish bar now to show it off.
He's dead on.
No, thanks for coming on, lads. Always a pleasure. And thanks everybody for leaving in the comments and for tuning in. It's what keeps the debate going and what keeps us coming on here talking about the club we love, obviously, in Liverpool. And let's hope tomorrow, another Monday night game, the last one for a while for us. Let's hope we end it with big 3 points and kickstart the season again, because we've big games coming up. Midweek game with Bournemouth, then a midweek game, and then the derby where Darwin Núñez is back for. No doubt he'll come back and score at Goodison. You just know he's going to be a big hit for us, I think, because he'll get all the chances. So thanks to everyone for coming on. And remember to like, subscribe and comment, and go over obviously and tune into the LFC Daytrippers. Subscribe to them as well, where Kev's on regularly, and Aled, who's on Klopptalk TV, who's also doing great content. Tune into his channel, I'm sure you all have. Take care, everybody. Thanks, and have a good day, and enjoy the game tomorrow.